The Rise of Rome from Myth to Republic. Chapter 1, The Birth of Rome 753–509 BC. The Legend of Romulus and Remus. The story of Rome begins not in history, but in myth. Twin brothers, Romulus and Remus, sons of the war god Mars and a Vestal virgin, were abandoned as infants and left to die by the Tiber River. But fate had other plans. A she-wolf found and nursed them, and a shepherd raised them to manhood. When the brothers grew up, they sought to build a city where the wolf had saved them. But a bitter quarrel erupted. Romulus killed Remus over a dispute about the city's boundaries. In 753 BC, Romulus became the first king of Rome, marking the birth of a civilization that would one day rule the world. The early monarchy and Etruscan influence. For over 200 years, Rome was ruled by 7 kings, some wise, some cruel. The early kings, like Numa Pompilius, established Rome's religious traditions. But the last 3 kings were Etruscans, a powerful civilization from northern Italy. The Etruscans brought advanced engineering, gladiatorial games, and the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's first sewer system. But their rule grew tyrannical, especially under Tarquin the Proud, the last king of Rome. The overthrow of Tarquin and birth of the Republic. Tarquin's reign was marked by brutality. When his son Sextus Tarquinius raped a noblewoman, Lucretia, she took her own life in shame. Outraged, the Romans, led by Lucius Junius Brutus, rose in rebellion. In 509 BC, the Romans expelled Tarquin and swore never to be ruled by a king again. The Roman Republic was born, a government of the people, by the people, where power was shared between the Senate, councils, and assemblies. But the young republic would soon face its greatest tests, the struggle between the nobles and the common people. Chapter 2, Rise of the Republic 509–6 for BC. Struggle of the orders, plebeians versus patricians. Rome's early republic was divided. Patricians, aristocrats, held all political power. Plebeians, commoners, had no rights, despite fighting in wars and paying taxes. Frustrated, the plebeians staged the first secession for 94 BC as they abandoned Rome, refusing to fight in wars until they were given rights. The patricians, fearing collapse, compromised. The tribunes of the plebs were created officials who could veto unfair laws. The council of the plebs allowed commoners to pass laws for themselves. Conquest of Italy, Latin wars, and Samnite wars. While Rome fought internally, it also expanded externally. Through a mix of alliances, warfare, and cunning, Rome defeated the Latins 340–338 BC. Rome crushed its neighbors, absorbing them into its growing state. The Samnites 343–290 BC. A brutal mountain war that tested Rome's legions, ending in Roman victory. By 264 BC, Rome dominated Italy, but a greater challenge loomed: Carthage, the superpower of the Mediterranean. The 12 Tables, Rome's first legal code. Before, laws were unwritten, allowing patricians to manipulate justice. In 451 BC, plebeians demanded transparency. The 12 Tables were carved in bronze, displayed in the Forum. Innocent until proven guilty. Debt slavery was regulated. Property rights were protected. This was Rome's first step toward rule of law, a foundation for future empires. Chapter 3, Punic Wars and Mediterranean Dominance 260–146 BC. Hannibal's invasion and the Battle of Cannae 216 BC. Rome had never faced a threat like Hannibal Barca. The Carthaginian general, sworn to destroy Rome since childhood, pulled off the impossible. He marched war elephants over the Alps into Italy. For 15 years, he ravaged the countryside, defeating every Roman army sent against him. At Cannae, Hannibal executed history's deadliest military trap. His smaller force surrounded and annihilated 80,000 Roman soldiers in a single day. Rome was on the brink of destruction, but they refused to surrender. Scipio Africanus, and the fall of Carthage 200 to 146 BC. Just when all seemed lost, a young Roman general, Scipio, changed the game. Instead of fighting Hannibal in Italy, he invaded Carthage itself, forcing Hannibal to return home. At the Battle of Zama 200 BC, Scipio defeated Hannibal, ending the Second Punic War. Carthage was humiliated, but Rome wasn't finished. In 146 BC, after a third and final war, Rome burned Carthage to the ground. Legend says they salted the earth so nothing would ever grow again. Rome's transformation into a naval superpower. Before the Punic Wars, Rome had no navy, but when Carthage dominated the seas, Rome built 330 warships in just 60 days, then invented the Corvus boarding bridge to turn sea battles into land fights. By 146 BC, Rome ruled the Mediterranean Mare Nostrum Sea. Chapter 4 Crisis of the Republic 1334 BC. The Gracchi brothers, Reform and Assassination 1331 to 1 BC. Rome's victories created a crisis. Wealth flooded in, but only the rich benefited. Soldiers returned to find their farms seized by aristocrats. Tiberius Gracchus, a tribune, demanded land reform. The Senate beat him to death in the streets. His brother Gaius continued the fight until he was hunted down and killed. Their deaths marked the first political murders in Rome, a warning that the Republic was breaking. Marius versus Sulla, the First Civil War 8881 BC. As tensions exploded, two generals clashed. Gaius Marius, a war hero who let the poor join the army, loyalty shifted from Rome to generals. Lucius Sulla, a ruthless aristocrat who marched on Rome itself twice. Sulla won, executing thousands in proscription lists. He then made himself dictator, proving power now came from the sword, not the Senate. Julius Caesar's rise and fall for 944 BC. The Republic was dying and Julius Caesar would be its last great leader. After conquering Gaul, he crossed the Rubicon River in 49 BC, declaring war on Rome. Defeating Pompey, he became dictator for life. But on the Ides of March 15, 44 BC, senators stabbed him 23 times, shouting Sic Semper Tyrannis, thus always to tyrants. Instead of saving the Republic, his death would plunge Rome into even greater chaos. Chapter 5 Augustus and the Pax Romana 27 BC to 180 C. Octavian's revenge, the fall of Antony and Cleopatra 31 BC. The Roman world was split into Octavian in the west, Mark Antony in the east. But when Antony abandoned Rome for Cleopatra, Octavian declared war. At the Battle of Actium 31 BC, Octavian's fleet crushed Antony's forces. The lovers fled to Egypt, where they died by suicide, Cleopatra by a venomous asp, Antony by his own sword. With no rivals left, Octavian became Augustus, the first Roman emperor. He claimed to restore the Republic, but in truth, the Republic was dead. Imperial reforms and the Golden Age. Augustus didn't just rule, he transformed Rome. Pax Romana, 200 years of peace with occasional wars at the edges. Professional army soldiers served 20 years, swore loyalty to the emperor. Monuments and propaganda. I found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble. Rome flourished, trade boomed, roads stretched across Europe, and literature thrived. Virgil, Ovid, Horace. Trajan's conquests and Hadrian's Wall 98 to 138 C. Under Trajan, the empire reached its greatest size, conquering Dacia, Romania, and Mesopotamia. But his successor, Hadrian, knew Rome was overstretched. He pulled back, building Hadrian's Wall in Britain, a symbol that the age of endless expansion was over. Chapter 6 The Empire's Peak and Decline 180 to 284 C. Commodus, the Mad Emperor 180 to 190 C. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, left the throne to his unfit son, Commodus. He renamed Rome Colonia Commodiana, fought as a gladiator, rigged fights, of course, and believed he was the reincarnation of Hercules. In 190 C, His own advisors strangled him in his bath. What followed was chaos, the year of the 5 emperors, where generals fought to the death for the throne. Crisis of the 3rd century to 35 to 284 CE. The empire nearly shattered. 26 emperors in 50 years, most murdered by their own troops. Barbarian invasions, Goths, Franks, and Persians attacked on all fronts. Economic collapse, hyperinflation made coins worthless. At one point, the empire split into 3 pieces: the Gallic Empire, the Palmyrene Empire, and what was left of Rome. Diocletian's Tetrarchy, a fractured empire. 284 CE. A ruthless soldier, Diocletian, seized power and tried to save Rome by dividing it. To senior emperors Augusti, to junior emperors Caesars. It worked for a while, but the Tetrarchy's real legacy, proving the empire was too big for one man to rule. Chapter 7, Constantine and the Christian Empire. 306–395 CE. The Battle of the Milvian Bridge and the Edict of Milan. In 312 CE, the Roman Empire was divided among rival emperors. Constantine, son of Constantius Chlorus, marched on Rome to challenge his rival, Maxentius. According to legend, Constantine had a vision before the battle: a cross in the sky with the words "In hoc signo vinces," in this sign, you shall conquer. He ordered his soldiers to paint the Chiro, a Christian symbol, on their shields. At the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, Constantine emerged victorious, and Maxentius drowned in the Tiber. This victory marked a turning point in Roman history. In 313 CE, Constantine and his co-emperor Licinius issued the Edict of Milan, legalizing Christianity and ending centuries of persecution. Though not yet a Christian himself, Constantine favored the faith, granting it privileges and funding church construction. The foundation of Constantinople. Recognizing that Rome was no longer the empire's strategic heart, Constantine sought a new capital. In 330 CE, he consecrated Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, on the site of ancient Byzantium. Positioned between Europe and Asia, the city was heavily fortified and became a Christian metropolis, free from pagan traditions. Constantinople would endure for over 1,000 years as the Eastern Roman Byzantine Empire's capital. Theodosius I, the last emperor of a united Rome. By the late 4th century, the empire was fracturing. Theodosius I, 379–395 CE, the last ruler to command both East and West, made Christianity the state religion in 380 CE, banning pagan rituals. However, his reign also saw growing barbarian threats. Upon his death in 395 CE, the empire was permanently divided between his sons, Honorius West and Arcadius East. Chapter 8, The Fall of the West. 395–476 CE. The Visigoths' sack of Rome. 410 CE. The Western Empire crumbled under internal strife and barbarian invasions. In 410 CE, Alaric, king of the Visigoths, besieged Rome after failed negotiations with Emperor Honorius. For the first time in 800 years, Rome was sacked. Though the damage was limited, the psychological blow was immense. Pagans blamed Christianity for weakening Rome, while St. Augustine wrote the City of God to reassure Christians. Battle of the Hun and the Battle of the Catalonian Plains. In the mid-5th century, Attila of the Hun, the Scourge of God, ravaged the Balkans and Gaul. In 451 CE, a combined force of Romans and Visigoths under Flavius Aetius confronted Attila at the Battle of the Catalonian Plains. Though inconclusive, it halted the Hunnic advance. Attila died in 453 CE, and his empire collapsed, but Rome's decline continued. Odoacer's deposition of Romulus Augustulus. By 476 CE, the Western Empire was a shadow of its former self. The last emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was a boy king controlled by his father, Orestes. When Germanic mercenaries demanded land and were refused, their chieftain, Odoacer, rebelled. He executed Orestes and deposed Romulus on September 4 for 76 CE, sending the imperial insignia to Constantinople. This event is traditionally marked as the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Odoacer ruled Italy as a client of the Eastern Emperor, but the age of Roman dominance in the West was over. The East, however, endured as the Byzantine Empire, preserving Roman law, culture, and Christianity for centuries to come. Epilogue. The fall of Rome did not mean the end of Roman civilization. Its legacy lived on in medieval Europe, shaping law, religion, and governance. The Eastern Empire thrived until 1453, ensuring that Rome's memory would never truly die. Chapter 9. Legacy of Rome. Byzantine survival in the East. While the Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476 CE, the Eastern Roman Empire Byzantium endured for nearly 1,000 more years. With its capital in Constantinople, the Byzantine Empire preserved Roman law, Greek culture, and Christianity. Under Emperor Justinian R. 527 to 565 CE, Byzantium reached its peak, reconquering Italy, North Africa, and parts of Spain. His codification of Roman law, the Corpus Juris Civilis, became the foundation of European legal systems. Despite facing Persian, Arab, and later Ottoman invasions, Byzantium remained a beacon of learning and diplomacy. The empire finally fell in 1453 when the Ottomans, led by Mehmed the Conqueror, breached Constantinople's walls. Yet even in defeat, Byzantine scholars fled westward, bringing ancient texts that helped spark the Renaissance. Roman law, architecture, and language today. Rome's influence never truly vanished, its legal principles innocent until proven guilty. Contracts, property rights still shape modern justice. The Latin language evolved into French, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese, while its words permeate English, for example, etc. Alibi versus. Roman engineering and architecture remain unmatched. Aqueducts inspired modern water systems. Concrete revolutionized construction. The Pantheon's dome is still the world's largest and reinforced concrete dome. Road networks laid the groundwork for Europe's infrastructure. Even governments echo Rome, the U.S. Senate, eagles as symbols of power, and the very idea of republics traced back to the Romans. Why Rome fell: barbarians, corruption, or climate. Historians debate Rome's collapse for centuries. No single cause doomed the empire, instead, a combination of factors. 1. Barbarian invasions. The Huns pushed Germanic tribes, Goths, Vandals into Roman lands. The West lacked the military or funds to repel them. 2. Political corruption and instability. Constant civil wars and short-lived emperors, for example, the Year of the Five Emperors. The Praetorian Guard often assassinated rulers for bribes. 3. Economic collapse. Inflation from debased coins ruined trade. Heavy taxation crushed the middle class. 4. Climate change and plague. The late antique Little Ice Age 6th century CE caused famine. The plague of Justinian 5 CE killed millions. 5. Overextension and division. The empire grew too vast to govern. The East-West split 395 CE left the West vulnerable. The eternal legacy. Rome's fall was not an ending but a transformation. Its laws, language, and ideals survived in medieval kingdoms, the Catholic Church, and Renaissance states. Today, Rome's legacy lives on in courts, capitals, and classrooms, proof that while empires fade, their ideas can be eternal. Rome perished, yet it conquered the world. Tacitus.